And fellas, we had a Monday night barn burner.
That was awesome.
I expected to come here, take a few notes about what happened last night, think that the Eagles walked them all up and down the football field. Didn't happen.
That's what we thought was going to happen.
That's what we thought was going to happen.
Not me.
Didn't happen.
You're a bright guy.
Falcons survive on the road. Fourth quarter comeback. Kirk Cousins
Falcons thrive on the road. Primetime Kirk last night. Did you see him, Pete Prisco? Go ahead, finish, Renner.
And he's now 4-12 on prime.
Who's the bigger takeaway from this side? Are we more encouraged about the Falcons going forward after their massive loss on week 1 to the Pittsburgh Steelers, or are we more encouraged about or discouraged about the Eagles going?
I'm a little bit discouraged by a guy by the name of Nick Sirianni and Kellen Moore and some of the things that they're trying to get accomplished offensively, because when you got that offensive line, you get an opportunity to put a team away. You friggin' do it, Pete. You take it, and that Brinks truck that they brought all the money in for those offensive linemen, you park it right by the sideline as a reminder to the defense. This is what we're going to do. We're going to run the football. That's why we have all these guys. They don't. They throw it to Saquon. Next thing you know, you get a fourth down opportunity, take the lead with a first down. They don't get the first down. Mike says they should have tush-pushed it twice. I think you can run it any kind of way with that group and get the first down, get out of there with a win. But then Kirk Cousins goes down. Darnell Mooney, his new homie in Atlanta, and they find a way to win.
You know, it's funny. Later on, I have my pick apart a coach, and it's clearly going to be Nick Sirianni for his decision. It was a terrible decision. It really was. And we could play that and spin it forward. And I'll show you different ways that it's just dumb. But more than that, they got away from the run. I mean, both teams kind of got away from the run, which was surprising. I think both teams could have gashed them. I'm more concerned about the Eagles' defense. You know, Vic Fangio was supposed to come in there, and they got all the assets and money tied up into that front. Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Nolan Smith they drafted. Huff, who's a no-show in 2 games. Brandon Graham is probably their best guy right now, and he
65. Got blocked by a tight end last night at one point.
And so they're little at linebacker. N'Kobe Dean's tiny. They get bodies on him, you run on them, and I think that's a problem. I'm worried about the Eagles' defense.
I am too, and it's not getting any easier. Saints on tap next week. Probably run the ball better than anyone else in the NFL right
against
now.
That front.
That could be a bloodbath. But yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. It wasn't just Sirianni, and I do question not only the decision to pass there, but then the decision not to go for on fourth down, which I'll get to after this. But defensively, I watched them put Jalen Carter up against Chris Lindstrom the entire night. On the last drive of the game, they know they're passing. You have them going one-on-one against the Falcons' best offensive lineman, the all-pro right guard. You put your best defensive tackle against him, and you have Moro Ajomo going one-on-one against Matthew Bergeron, easily their worst offensive lineman at left guard. I don't know how you don't game plan for a situation like that to just say, I want my best guy against their worst guy. It costs you nothing.
Good defensive fronts understand that better than anybody. Good defensive line coaches can feel that and have an understanding with their guys. There were times in my career where I'd go against the ace for a couple plays, and then he would get pissed off, and he'd go against somebody else. And the next thing you know, your quarterback's down in the backfield, and you're like, well, there's a reason why they moved this thing around. Last night, we didn't see that willingness from Jalen Carter or their D-line coach to get them in the right spot. I'm not sure who their D-line coach is. I think I saw Clint Hurt over there, potentially. Clint Hurt, a former Seattle guy. I don't know. He's very large. So if you see him, you know who I'm talking about. But yeah, Jalen going against Lindstrom. That's a mute button. We talk about the mute button award, which we're going to give out here in a little bit. But at the end of the day, you want your best guys in advantageous situations to win. It's not that against Lindstrom, particularly at the end of the football.
Later in his career, they were moving the best guy over him.
Exactly. That's why I said there was a certain point in time, if you had a technology, you can see the film.
And this Eagles defensive line, they have too many guys that just want to rush the passer. I mean, Jalen Carter being one of them, but then also Milton Williams on the interior. And then Jordan Davis can't play against stretch zone runs. Like, he can't get wide. He has to go in a phone booth to play the run.
And the ends get blocked all the time.
Yes.
They're little. They're small.
So, like, they have kind of the same problem that the Jets have defensively in that front seven, where it's just like they got too many guys who want to get up the football field. If you just really are patient and want to run the football against them, you can pretty much have everything you want against this defensive front, and that's kind of scary.
Remember when Red Bryant was in the NFL?
Yeah, he was big giant man.
Because also Vic Fangio is like not known for the running game.
Throw him at end. Throw Jordan Davis at end and let him build a wall on the outside. Now you got one edge taken care of, and now you can put some guys who can defend that mid zone in there as well.
Did you ever block him?
No, I didn't. But I had to, watch him on film, and I had to pray for our tackle. But I will say this: when the Atlanta Falcons elect to run the football, and they get that guy Bijan Robinson on a stretch, it looks like poetry in motion. I mean, I texted him last night. I said, this looks like football pornography. This is what you sign up for. I'll get the premium package to watch them run with Bijan, not only able to stretch the defense, but he gets to the sideline and can turn that thing up and dance on that white line. There's only a handful of athletes in the National Football League who can do it. We saw 2 of those running backs last night.
Yeah, and they struggled to run the ball. I mean, they weren't great last week against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's pretty good. Bergeron, you mentioned he was terrible against the Steelers. I haven't watched last night's game yet, but that line, when they get going, they're good. They're good run blocking line. They're not great in pass protection, but they're good run blocking line, and I think you saw that.
I mean, the addition of play action, which again we didn't see week 1. I think almost double-digit play action passes this past week for Kirk Cousins. It was over the middle of the football field, like exactly kind of what we said what they were lacking the first week was just that ability to draw the linebackers up and then hit over the top. That was like Kirk Cousins until the final drive. That's what he was living on in that passing game. So I think I agree with you guys that this is more of an indictment of the Eagles. I think the Falcons, I still like Kirk still doesn't look like Kirk, right? Like the
Falcons
arm
fan, I'm a lot happier.
A lot happier.
Not just because of the win. Even if they lost the football game last night, I'd say, okay, I've seen it on tape now. Your willingness to stick to the run game, set up the play action protection. And to your point, they want to be in the run game, and it helps guys. Like the notes I took, both offensive lines came out in the first half. They showcased the things they were excited about. Commitment to the run and hard play action. I was laughing at how easy it looks when a guy like Jake Matthews, all he does is run block, and then they call pass, and he does the same technique, and he can just sit down on a power. It looks easy. He's over there yawning. The Eagles' right side, I thought they were great at some points, disjointed at some points, and it reared its head at the end of the game when Sirianni's unwillingness to run that football twice. Judon, big play cross face. He looked pretty good at times on a tight end. Jalen protected well. I wish we saw more runs out of this group. And then the big thing I wrote, Sirianalytics, ? Followed by, they must be paying Jason Kelce $1 billion.
Let's get to that decision. So I'll lay out what happened. So the 4th and 3, right in the at the Falcons 10-yard line at the end of the game. I think it was like a minute 39.
No, it was a minute 49.
Minute 49, excuse me, left in that one. Falcons had no timeouts. Correct. So on that decision, pretty much any model about the game would tell you to go for it because you convert, you do whatever, game's over. You're trusting your offense, game's over. But if you don't convert, that's 90 yards they have to go in that time. So the chance of you losing in regulation is very, very slim.
What were they on, the 10? Was it the 10?
It was the 10. So
you got to assume they needed 3.
Yeah.
Let's just assume they don't get it. They get 2 more, so it's the 8.
Yeah, so 92 yards they have to go. So basically you're not going to lose in regulation should you go for it. It's going to be very, very difficult for them to go that far, as opposed to what happened was they got the ball to 30 and drove all the way down there. So a much shorter field from kicking the field goal. And then also the decision-making that happens when you're down 3 versus down 6. Down 6, you are aggressive. You have to go into the end zone. More likely than not, you're going to score a touchdown. So you're like, if you're getting there to that point, you are going all the way to the end zone. Whereas the opposite, if you're only up 3, they would go into, as soon as they got into field goal range, they would trust their kicker. Now, Younghoe's a good kicker. I wouldn't doubt him to miss it. And obviously he made that 48-yard extra point to win that game. So that's about what you would expect. But it is more often than not the correct play to not take that 6-point lead. The 6-point lead is fool's gold more often than not in the NFL than that 3-point lead.
I agree with you 100%. And usually I take the 3 points there in large part because you could have run the clock down to
because a minute. You could have had it under a minute if you ran on 3rd down.
No timeouts for the Falcons.
But there are a lot of things at play there. And you mentioned a bunch of the analytics stuff. And I always get into analytics. You love analytics because of nobody ever measures the inches.
Yes. So your 1 yard analytics.
But here's what I would have done. I would have run the ball. You run the ball, it takes 5 seconds off the play clock, right? Then you get run the play 5-6 seconds. So you're down to minute 43. You go to the play. You're under a minute. If you run it again second time and don't get it, they're at the 8-yard line, 9-yard line with 47 seconds left.
Good luck.
No timeouts to go get a tying field goal. The other part of the equation is this, and you know this. You play. When teams are backed up, it's a different mentality than when you're on the 30-yard line.
Exactly.
I don't care. Everybody always says, "Oh, it's the same field." No, it's not. They play it differently. They play it differently when you're on the goal line. They play it differently when you're backed up. That's a different scenario for Kirk Cousins, and that's if they play.
If you're in the middle of the game and you're not talking about an end of game scenario, you're playing that thing a lot differently. But obviously, with your back against the wall in score and with time, you're going to have to run your offense. And with you backed up like that, it's got to be a quick game, stuff like that. But it remains to be seen if the offense would change that much. I think I disagree with you there in terms of the where we are in the game. It's the end of the half. We're not worried about turning the ball over, getting a safety. I mean, the game's over if we don't get down. But
I'm saying the mentality of the place, the team, the defense, the attacking. It just in this scenario they're backed up. You know that all you got to do is prevent them from getting to the 50, and you win the game. Yeah. You're not preventing them from stopping.
In terms of real estate, we got to get down the field 90 yards. That's a what. But at the end of the day,
they would only need 50 in that scenario, right? To tie the game, you would only need it
with Younghoe's leg. Yeah.
But if I take a field with 50 seconds and I'm a defensive coordinator and I know all I got to do is keep everything in front of me and they can't get to the 50-yard line, I'm winning that game. Yeah. I'm winning that game in that scenario much more likely than a minute. What was it? A minute 30?
39.
Yeah.
And then, which was. And also, I mean, you say trust your defense, but I do think in either scenario, you're trusting your defense. It's also okay, trust your offense too, to go get us this fourth down. But I will say Quinyon Mitchell on that last drive, I couldn't believe how he clouded. He cover 2 on his side. He sinks to a flat. He goes to the flat instead of sinking underneath the corner route, gives up a big play. Next play allows a big out route.
Overcorrect.
He completely
and then
sank.
Slade just got whipped on that.
If you're again DC decisions on that final drive. Not to question Vic Fangio, he's a legend, obviously, but he didn't have a good game on that final drive. The decisions he made to, not hammer to your corners. It's not to sink deep, but also get to the sidelines. Deep and to the sidelines. All you want to do in that situation is just keep plays inbounds. Is all you can do. That's how you win that game.
But you also got to get some pressure too. I mean, you paid all these guys. You paid Huff. You got all the assets invested in it. Go get to the quarterback. Somebody hits him at any point and puts him on the ground. That game is over.
If I'm the Eagles, I'm lining 3 guys up over the other side. I'm going to have a loaded front opposite Lindstrom. I'm going to make him get involved late in the game pass off. Sometimes you get 3 guys on one side. One has to come back. Is he coming A gap, B gap, or is he going all around the tackle? Is the tackles guy going to be coming inside? Your eyes have to be perfect when you're the uncovered man in a loaded look. That could have been a front I would love to see from the Eagles. But the mismatch there with Lindstrom against anybody, it doesn't bode well.
He actually got beat for the sack by
Williams. He got beat inside early. Yeah.
Williams got him on that one play. He's a good player.
It was a good rush.
Yeah. But
right after he dominated on the screen.
They have all rushers and nobody rushed the drive to win the game. Nobody rushed. Where are they? I mean.
Well, Murrow Jones was out there,
What would we have been saying this morning if that penalty that knocked him back on the point after attempt would have been the one that lost him the game? If Younghoe Koo misses that extra point.
That was kind of wild. Yeah,
put the gun away. Put the gun away until after the game, bro.
Some of these guys, I mean, Belichick was on with Manning and the 2 Mannings, and somebody got a penalty for something stupid, and you could just see the disdain on his face. It was drives
these guys crazy because it could, it could lose you the football game.
See, I'd be bad if I was a coach because I'd want to grab that helmet.
You'd be hitting guys.
I wouldn't hit him.
You'd be doing the Trent Dilfer.
Trent Dilfer to the Pop Warner kid. You will listen to me, son.